I'm here with Chris, who's kind enough to be a student, a representative of all of us who are working on our health, and we're on the road to well-being. And so far we've looked at nutrition and food and how important that is. And if we eat bad food, it creates stress. And if we're not really in good posture and breathing, it creates stress. And that stress is a common problem for all of us. So I want to teach Chris and all of us watching how to manage stress more effectively. So Chris, how do you explain stress? What does it either look like, feel like, sound like? What is stress?
Pressure. A lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. Pressure to perform well, pressure to be on time, pressure to do things, keep up relationships and keep bills paid and all that stuff, keep it all rolling.
I think we can all relate to that, I really do. That we're under the gun. It feels like it's a lot of work, it's kind of overwhelming. And when somebody is stressed, it's a stimulus and response activity. The stimulus is all those things that you mentioned, and the response is either fear or tension or anxiety or fatigue or all kinds of discomfort.
Yeah.
So I think we can establish that being in a high stress mode contributes to dis-ease. And being in a low stress mode, what are the things for you that enable you to relax and enjoy and perform and feel good about yourself? What are some of the activities or states of being that really help you?
I love nature. I love being outdoors. So any time that I can go outdoors is a good thing for me. And then if I have variation in my routine, that really helps.
Yes.
And as well as sometimes if I just get a chance to do something different or something time during the day when I can just relax and chill. And unfortunately, usually what I do is watch TV.
Oh.
So
we'll talk about that. That might be called a coping mechanism, a checking out coping mechanism.
Well, yeah.
It might be, or it may be just doing something really interesting and learning and
Yeah.
enjoying.
But yeah, and I also enjoy being with my friends. And,
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
So the point I want to make for you and others is the life-work balance, the work-play balance, the activity-rest balance. So would you say what percentage of your time goes into dealing with pressures and have-tos, and what amount of your time goes into want-tos and like-tos?
Well, I'm lucky in that I work at home as a graphic designer, even though I work for a company. So when I'm not under intense deadline, I can actually take time out to do things like go for a walk. But the problem is that I have so much pressure that I don't often do it, or I'll work late into the night. So I would say most of the time I'm just pressured. I'm pressured to, I don't really totally relax a lot.
Okay.
I do de-stress, and I am more lucky than a lot of people in that I have a variable schedule, but even when I'm doing something different, I'm still feeling that pressure.
We can all kind of relate to that. There was a gentleman named Hans Selye, S-E-L-Y-E, who wrote a book called The Stress of Life, and that was 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, there was a lot of stress, and he tested animals to see how they responded to being in stressful situations. Sometimes they gave them sugar, Sometimes they gave them electrical charges. Sometimes they gave them changes in temperature, changes in routine. And they found that these little animals, they were rats, they became ill. That they became old, they became fat, they became disoriented, they became depressed. They really looked for ways to check out. So we learned a lot. And the interesting part of the experiment was for the person who attended to some of the rats, who took them out of the cage and communicated with them and held them. Those rats tolerated the same electrical stress and food stress and chemical stress.
Wow.
It's a beautiful experiment. Now, Selye had 2 points that when people are in this kind of change and overwhelmed and difficult situation, he saw that the response was fight or flight. So I bet you've heard that, right? Mm-hmm. Fight is to put up a fight,
right,
and flight is to run. There's a third mechanism that's been identified called freeze. So under stress, it's fight or flight or freeze. Freeze is paralysis. I just, can't do that.
right.
Have you noticed a little of that?
Yeah, I've had a few freezes.
Just a few freeze
I've
outs.
had a few freezes in my life. Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah.
Well, it happened, we all. Now, what I want to teach you today as a core principle of stress management, and each class there'll be another practice for you to work on, just like eating is a practice, movement is a practice, breathing is a practice, stress management, there's practices. Is the opposite of being stressed. And the stress is not what's coming at you, it's how you respond to what's coming at you. I want you to know that. Okay, the saber-toothed tiger is not chasing you around anymore. It's the deadline, it's the bills, it's the health challenges, all those things that we have, right?
Yeah.
So the process is an acronym I coined myself called being calm. Calm stands for C-A-L-M. So the opposite of stress is not unstress or de-stress, it's being calm. And remaining calm in the midst of challenge, in the midst of difficulty.
That's really hard for me
It's
to
something
do.
to learn.
Because when I get stressed, I just start to, it actually has the opposite effect where I just am like, I get more and more revved up and...
So your nervous system, it's called the sympathetic nervous system, gets activated when you get frightened. Or you fighting or flighting or freezing. Mm-hmm. But the idea of calm, which we'll work on, is centered. With that posture, the first movement is getting centered and living in the moment. The moment. So let's practice being calm, breathing comfortably. In your nose, out your mouth. Letting it go. Are you breathing? In your nose, out your mouth. And let me hear an audible exhale. Ah. Breathe in with me. In. Out. Ah. Let's do it 3 times. In. Breathe in. Ah. One more time. Breathe out. Breathe in. Ah. And say with me, I am calm.
I am calm.
I am calm.
I'm calm.
How are you?
I'm calm.
I'm calm. What's it feel like to be calm?
Very strange.
It's new. It's new. But I want you to work on that because at the moment there's really nothing upon you. Now, there could be tomorrow. There could be yesterday. There could be, all these type things. But if we learn, as we learn, to take a moment to breathe and centered, relax, and affirm, I'm alive, I'm well, I'm calm. We change the stress pattern, which becomes chronic and endemic. Meaning you wake up stress, you go through the day stress, you go to sleep stress, you're not sure of what's going to happen or whether or not you can cope. So the core practice is affirming calmness through thoughts, words, and action. Is that something you might be able to practice this week?
Yeah, I can.
And even for 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, it's not a long thing.
Yeah.
Then what you can do for homework is look at the stress inventory on the library. So there's
on the website?
the Bauman Wellness Library. Each lesson has articles and activities and videos, things
Okay.
like that. And I looked at a scale that was 41 different events that tend to stress people, that tend to accelerate dis-ease. But where are we going? We're on the road to well-being. That's a state that we haven't experienced lately, okay? Because we're in the state of dis-ease.
Right.
And dis-ease doesn't have to be diabetes or heart condition. It's just I'm not at ease. I'm not calm. So if you look at that inventory, you can give yourself a little score of never, seldom, often. And then we can begin to talk about some of those issues that chronically stress you. What you mentioned is work stress. And what are 2 or 3 other areas that come to mind?
Work stress, keeping everything going stress.
Right.
You know, so that with the family and keeping like
Right.
the house clean.
The too much to do stress.
Yeah, the too much to do of obligation stress.
That's a big one.
Where there's part of me that just doesn't want to always be under obligation. So that's a stress, because there are things
That sounds
that
like
I
the
want
flight.
to do.
That's the flight package.
Well, there's things
Southwest,
I
you
want
wanna
to
get
do
away?
I don't have time to do.
Yes.
And then I try to do those things too, because I'm motivated to do things that are outside of the obligation because it satisfies me. But then that stresses me out even
Okay.
more. So I'm doing too much stuff. So that's
Let's call it right there.
okay.
So the practice is I'm feeling stressed, which means I'm overwhelmed, I'm wound up, all those feelings. You know what
Yeah.
that feels like?
Yeah.
I'm stressed, all right?
Uh-huh.
Time out. Take a time out. Go 1 minute time out. Can you do that? 1 minute? Well, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, you just go, I need to take a time out. Go back into centered and living in the moment. What's my next step? So to conclude our lesson number 1, all right, and to look at the challenge. What you were stating, it's a challenge to keep up, it's a challenge to deal with all the things you have to deal with.
Right.
Then the challenge for you is to make a timeout, take 30 seconds or a minute to just put it aside and come into center. And then to say, okay, what can I do next? What's next?
Okay.
Can you practice that some this week?
Yeah, I mean, I will try my best.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, I can do it.
All right.
I can do it.
Well, notice your stress and notice your response.
Uh-huh.
The stress will not change. The response can.
Okay.
You got that lesson?
Yeah.
You go, yep, there's going to be new stress today.
Yeah.
How did I deal with it? We will teach you, I will help you work through that in lesson number 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
So thank you for being, this is your life. Under stress and heading towards well-being. Thank you.
I'm heading towards well-being. That's good.